Let's get one thing straight. No one is hoping to get dumped ever, but for a narcissist, the feeling of being broken up with hits different. It's a horrific, devastating thing for a person with a fragile ego to experience. Most narcs default into being a victim when times get tough, like when they're being dumped, and expect no less from the narcissist in your life when it's happening. Dumping a narcissist leaves them feeling very exposed, outsmarted, humiliated, abandoned, and unloved. But what will all of this actually look like? Let's talk about what a narc does when they're on the receiving ouchie end of a discard. Number 1, they'll attempt to redirect the narrative. In the end, you're basically letting the narcissist know that you understand who they are. The jig is up and their mask is off. Once this happens, narcissists will immediately shift into damage control mode. They'll try to control and regain power over the situation and you by making you seem like the bad guy. You had the issues. You had the problems. They might say things like, well, I'm glad this is happening because I was actually planning on dumping you anyway. I was going to do this, but since I'm such a good person, I was going to wait until after the holidays. They might say that you're the reason the relationship is sour and has gone downhill, but a little bit more on that in just a minute. Attempts to redirect what happened in the breakup and what happened in the relationship will take place, of course, with others by way of the smear campaign, where they tell friends, family, coworkers, and mutual people that it was your fault, you were awful and terrible, and they left you because, they just had to. Come on. Number 2, they blame shift you. Well, here we are. It's been a minute. We can talk about it now. As I said in my intro, narcs are always going to portray the poor, put upon victim, and we can very clearly see that as they're blame shifting. Everything is your fault. You're why the relationship is so rocky. You're giving them a hard time. You have all these issues and you just can't get it right. This person might go on to tell you things like you're not very kind. You're not very considerate. You don't care. They might even say really outrageous things like they're the ones that have been working very hard to try to save the relationship. You're the one. You're the problem. You're tearing it all down. You're not listening to them. You're not hearing them out. Blame shifting is Narcissist 101. And another point that I want to add here, just because it makes sense, is the lack of responsibility and accountability that narcissists basically do all the time, but especially when they're getting dumped. Along with projecting and making all of this your fault, the narc is not going to assume accountability when faced with what was definitely done wrong on their end, because it's not just all us and it's not just all them either, but they're never going to accept what they did on their end of things. Number 3, they devalue. You hurt this person. It doesn't matter how adult the breakup is. You've wronged a person who now knows that their supply has been cut. And they're feeling a lot of, like I said in the intro, really uncomfortable things they don't like. So that pedestal that you were on, that's gone. Any attempts to love bomb you, usually they're like instantly halted and you begin to be devalued. Now this can range, and it will probably include all of these, but things like petty insults, name calling, they'll accuse you of cheating, they never liked you in the first place, you never liked them in the first place, and some other things might happen that again, we're going to get into in just a moment or two here. If you'd like to talk with me one-on-one and get some help and support for your situation that you're going through now, you can visit my website to set up a phone chat with me. Information to get started on doing that is right down in the video description. Number 4, they gaslight you. See, I told you we'd get here, and here we are. Gaslighting is a fabulous tool used by toxic people like narcissists to convince you that what is actually going on in your life is not going on in your life. And when done well, this works perfectly and can actually get people to stop believing their own reality. A narcissist will do this throughout the relationship, but when it comes to the end, They might tell you things like, all this abuse you keep talking about never happened. You'll hear these things, which as I go through this list, survivor, I'm sure you've heard these before. You're really nuts. You really need to get some help. I'm concerned about you. I think you should talk to somebody. With the way you act, no wonder you can't keep a partner. No wonder nobody will marry you. Look at the way you're behaving right now. What do you mean I'm abusive? You don't know what you're talking about. I'm not a narcissist. You're a narcissist. Break up with me. Who would put up with all the bullshit? Look what you're trying to do right now. Look how you're trying to walk away from me. I don't know what your exes did to you, but boy, they sure screwed you up good. Number 5, they dropped the guilt bomb. Guilt. Here is where you see that little victim mentality really shine through. This is all about, like we discussed, getting that power and control back. So when a narcissist hits you with some of that guilt, you'll hear things like, I can't handle being alone. This is what you're going to do to me? You're just going to leave me like this? Are you serious right now? I can't believe you'd ever do this. I thought better of you. There's some shame too. They're going to throw in some shame. I never thought you would behave like this. I thought better of you. I knew you'd leave me. Go ahead. Everyone leaves me. Everyone gives up on me. No one's going to give me a chance. You're just like everybody else. You might hear something like, hey, I paid for things for you. I did things for you. You're just going to leave because all this is happening? You're just going to leave because you think something's wrong? This is what I get for being good to you. You might hear something like, wow, okay, you know what? I could tell you never really liked me anyway. You like somebody else. I can tell that's why you're doing this. Believe me, survivor, some of the lines you're going to hear are like just really superb. And these folks are great actors, but rest assured, they're not afraid of the breakup. You could be married to them or you could be complete strangers. They just want to know they can control the narrative. That's all that matters. They want to know that they have control over you and they want to know that they have the power. Number 6. They Hoover. This doesn't happen, right away, but once things go radio silent, most narcs do decide to come back at least once and sniff around. It's called a Hoover because that's where these losers try to suck you back in for another ride on the merry-go-round of bullshit. And they might try to butter you up, love bomb you, guilt you, gaslight you, some things that we've talked about. They might also use all kinds of other fake apologies, false promises, and tricks to try to get you to go on that ride one more time. Number 7, they love bomb. Again, this typically happens when they're hoovering, but it can also happen right there at the breakup. In the moment, they can begin to love bomb you, butter you up, try to get you back up on the pedestal. They'll promise you things that otherwise they wouldn't give you. They'll propose, they'll buy you something, say, let's move in. They'll promise to change. They'll go to therapy. They'll stop talking to the other people. They'll delete the dating apps. You've heard it all before, survivor. They waste time telling you crap that they know you want to hear. Number 8, they rage. This one is honestly scary. While most narcissists are all bark and no bite, and they're not intimidating, and they're actually really pathetic, some do have a wicked, nasty bite. They can get violent, yell, scream, and become destructive. Among other things I'm not going to talk about here. Take care, survivor. I make jokes at these people's expense, and don't get me wrong, I'm going to keep doing that. I do try to bring some lightheartedness to a very dour, depressing topic, but I do mean it when I tell people, take care of yourself. When I say that at the end of my videos, it's not just something I say for continuity purposes. These people can do more than just hurt emotionally and mentally. They'll destroy property. They're going to do other things, again, that I don't want to really talk about very openly on YouTube, but we both know what those are. Number 9, they threaten. The threats a narcissist is going to spew, they're all usually about the same. Don't leave me, I'll do this. Don't behave like this, I'll do this. But the major one that I want to address is when they say, if you leave me, I'm going to not be here anymore and unalive myself. I will say it like that. Again, YouTube doesn't like those things, and I don't want to dwell here either. So typically people who feel that way are not announcing it and they're not talking about it. The narc I dealt with did this, so I've handled it personally. Things would be great happy, smiley, no depression, no sadness, until I couldn't handle it anymore and I had one foot out the door. And then that was what they were going to do. And they told me that that was what they were going to do if I left and didn't come back. And as soon as I said, okay, I'll stay, they were so happy and things were just fine. That's not how depression and those particular feelings work, by the way. Speaking as somebody who has had depression and some of those bad feelings in my lifetime, not how it works. Oh, by the way, to end that threat and that bullshit real quick, call 911 and ask for a welfare check every single time you hear that. And after they get a few of them hospital bills, they'll knock off this bullshit threat real quick. Little tip from me to you. They might also threaten to do things to you. You might need to get police, attorneys and things like that involved. Don't tread lightly. Do what needs to be done. Show these people you're not going to be intimidated and you're not going to be pushed around. Here's the thing, survivor. If nothing else, take away this. You deserve respect. And if they're not going to respect you, you know what? You can't make them. You can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do. But what you can do is move on and live very nicely without their disrespect. So what else does a narcissist do when you dump them? There were obvious things I skipped over, like they're going to replace you, they're going to go on the dating apps, they're going to do all of that bullshit. But let me know if I missed something down in the comments. Thanks for listening. Have a great day, survivor, and take care of yourself.